What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday evening, a great weekend so far as we're about to enter our first full week of April. I'm expecting a very active first week of April in the weather world. I'm talking about the chances of severe weather for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday. Who knows, maybe even Friday. We have to check that out as we get a little bit later into the week. But I want to give you an update. There is a chance for flooding. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but the South is under the gun again for some severe weather. Any kind of outbreak, I don't know. Nothing screams severe weather outbreak to me with any of these setups for each day, but we're going to talk about what we do know for each setup. For Monday, for example, I am able to look at the NAM, so a short-range convective model we can look a little bit more detailed at as far as Monday, but Tuesday and Wednesday, it's really hard to get super detailed on that, but we're going to talk about that. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I appreciate the support. Hit me up on Twitter, guys. I try not to get too crazy promoting my social media, but follow me on Twitter. Give my Facebook a like. I know a lot more people are a lot more active on Facebook, but if you're active on Twitter, give me a follow on Twitter. I promise you guys, when the weather is popping, I'm popping on social media. So I'm trying to keep you guys alert and definitely updated on what is going on. So if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. Gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get going here because there's a good little bit to talk about in this video. I know y'all see a lot of tabs open, but trust me, it's not going to be a 20-25 minute video or anything like that. But let's get going here. So this is for Monday. Monday morning, you have into Tuesday morning, you have a slight risk up for a pretty large area, and I mentioned this morning, this is stretching from almost Abilene, Texas, all the way to Jackson, Mississippi, and a little bit further east than that. And really, this is in response to an upper trough that's digging and a short wave. Really weak short wave low is going to develop here in probably western Texas and make its way across Oklahoma and then Arkansas. That is going to advect basically moist air into this system, into this area is what I meant to say right here. It's going to create a pretty large, warm, moist sector right in this area. So you're going to have some dynamics in place for some severe weather. What kind of severe weather? Probably more in the way of damaging winds, maybe some large hail initially, but we'll find out what the Storm Prediction Center is going to say, label for this area as we're waking up tomorrow morning. But I'm expecting a pretty large area of severe weather for this region. Going forward here, we're looking at day 4, 5, and 6. So day 4, severe weather expected all the way from New Orleans all the way through Atlanta, maybe even stretching into the Carolinas. There's a big question mark on this, but this severe weather risk area is associated with the same shortwave low pressure associated with a stalled out cold front right into here. So it's going to continue to advect moist air into this system right here, into this setup. I keep wanting to say system, I'm meaning this area right here. Pretty large moist sector, warm sector. So you got a lot of warm air, a lot of humid air in this area. So you got a thermodynamics in place. What kind of low level jet, the wind energy, the kinematics do you have in place? How much Kate builds? A big question about day 4, which is your Tuesday and Wednesday, a big question about this risk area is how much does the atmosphere destabilize with the morning convection for your Tuesday? It even mentions that in the discussion. That is a big question with this. And then we get into day 5, and this is for your Wednesday into Thursday. So April 6th into your morning of April 7th. And this is actually associated with a totally different system. A pretty large-scale upper trough builds out here in a deepening low pressure associated with a big-time upper trough that kind of digs into the region. That's actually going to bring us a pretty cool late week here for the eastern U.S. I'm talking about probably frost for a lot of areas. So, even if you're in the South, especially the Mid-South, I wouldn't plant this weekend. Hopefully you guys didn't. And it might not be a damaging frost or freeze or anything. We need to definitely figure out what's going to happen and how cold it's going to get. But I do anticipate a pretty cold weekend next weekend. I'm not talking about widespread teens and 20s, but a pretty chilly weekend. But we'll figure out how cold it is, as we get a little bit later in the week. But there is a risk for day 6 also for this small area. I'm not going to talk much on that just because we don't know a whole lot about that. We really don't. So we're going to move forward here and talk about some other regions here. So in general, what you got going on here, I'm going to just look at the GFS. So scooting on through Sunday, we got this system that moves through the Northeast. I'll talk about that a little bit in the morning for your Sunday forecast. This is as we're getting into Monday. And I do want to mention there will be some severe weather Sunday, probably somewhere here closer to the panhandle of Texas and then in areas of southwest Oklahoma. And I'll probably show you that on the NAM here coming up in a second. But going forward here, you see this system that develops. It doesn't show much. It's just the GFS. But in general, a low pressure forms right into here, scoots across Arkansas, brings a lot of moisture into the south. This is going to definitely be a flooding threat right in here. So we got to watch out for this. And then this moves through, and then a big time upper trough right here with a deepening low pressure. Pretty powerful land low pressure right here develops and really gets a big time storm going on up here. That is going to promote an atmosphere probably for some severe weather down here across the southeast. Trying to figure out where is a big question, but this is going to be a big system on its own. Obviously, if this low pressure actually is a little bit further south, the forcing will be better for severe weather down here, but we have to see what happens here. That's a low pressure that's positioned pretty far north, so we have to see, like I said, what happens going forward here. Let's look at the 500 millibar kind of wind streams right here in the heights on what is going on with the mid-level jet. So going forward here, this is really paused for your Monday. Mid-level jet firing up here, a low pressure, some kind of shortwave low will develop right into here along this stalled boundary, this cold front. And I know this doesn't look like there's not a whole lot going on right here for you to actually see, but there is a low pressure developing here. This will create a little bit of a low-level jet, probably a 40-knot low-level jet, give or take, a few knots. This will move forward here, and this will help to advect basically moist air into the south right into here. And then going forward here, this will also cause, probably some kinematics in place for Georgia, maybe even southern areas of Alabama for some severe weather as you're getting into Tuesday. And like I said, I'm going to get a little bit more detailed about each day. I'm just kind of showing you a more large scale what is going on. And then we look further in the week as we're getting to the midweek, and here comes this big time deepening low pressure associated with this upper trough that digs, and you'll have a big time wind field aloft developing across the Ohio Valley moving forward here. And Thursday's a tricky day. Thursday could be a day that trends a little differently. And obviously, there's not a really whole lot to add to that, me saying that, but I want to watch Thursday because depending on how this low pressure trends, Thursday could be more of a risk area for more areas than what the storm prediction is showing right now. But there's still a lot of questions on what this big time pattern changing, temporary pattern, very quick pattern changing, fleeting air mass will end up doing as far as this deepening low pressure right here. You see this big kind of hole right here. That is where a big time deepening low pressure will develop. So let's go on and switch to the NAM going forward here. So let's go on and click a little bit more past. I had it a little bit too far ahead. So let's look at tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning we're looking okay, and then we're getting into tomorrow evening. Some supercells could form right into here. It's hard to even call them supercells, but some stronger storms can form. That's why there's a slight risk for tomorrow that I didn't really mention on the Storm Prediction Center, but there's definitely a slight risk up. We need to watch this area for some stronger storms could definitely form right into here. I think it's going to be a really isolated event for tomorrow, but I'll talk a little bit about this for your Sunday forecast video in the morning for anybody who lives and watches my channel out in this area. And then going forward here, we'll get into Monday morning. And this is what we have to watch this area again that begins to develop, and I think quickly some pretty powerful storms develops. And as we're getting probably late in the evening, honestly, this is going to be a system that more so gets cranked up probably after the sun goes down Monday night, and then we're getting into the overnight hours in the Monday night, into the wee hours of the morning Tuesday morning. And I think probably some kind of squall line or just a complex system, like we like to call them, a quasi-linear convective system. It's such a long, drawn-out term here, but think of this as a line of strong to severe thunderstorms develops in the middle of the night, and these same areas have been impacted by a lot of weather over the last 2 months, really, between winter weather, severe weather. But I think a lot of heavy rain, stronger storms are going to develop overnight for these same areas, close to Springfield, Arkansas, that got hit by that tornado the other night here. I think y'all are going to see some nasty weather again overnight, Monday night into Tuesday morning as this complex area of showers and storms develops. But this is as far out as it goes, 60 hours out. It only goes out to about 2 a.m. Eastern time. This will be about 1 a.m. Central Standard Time, right out here in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Northeast Texas, where I think some powerful storms are going to be working its way overnight, Monday night into Tuesday morning. So, really in the nutshell, what I'm really watching here is going forward here, we're getting into Monday, and there isn't going to be a chance for some isolated tornadoes with this setup, but I think the main risk, and even the Storm Prediction Center talks about this, is probably going to be damaging winds. But you look at this, low-level jet pops off here, right here, going probably pushing about 40 to 50 knots. So there could be a chance of some spin-ups along that line that I just showed you in the previous panel here. So we need to watch out here as a low-level jet gets kicking here, pushing 50 knots based off the NAM, which isn't always accurate in long range. But you also look at the dew points, and you can see this moist air getting evected and kind of into the Texas area and then Arkansas, dew points rising. I love looking at this on Tropical Tidbits. You can see the clashing of the air masses right here as moist air rises in response to this shortwave low pressure, pulling winds out the southeast in general, then south, pulling that moist air ahead of that line right into here. So you have dew points reaching the 60s. So you have some little bit of thermodynamics in place. And then you look at the Cape, which I think there will be a lot of Cape in place here. But with such a weaker low pressure in place, is there going to be any taking advantage of this Cape here? Now, you're going to have Cape, especially down here in Central Texas, reaching surface-based Cape, by the way, which isn't always the best thing to look at. But, it's the only thing showing them right here. Showing, 1,000, 1,500 joules per kilogram building. So you're going to have some Cape building into Texas to take advantage of the other atmospheric conditions in place, right here to fuel some of these thunderstorms. But really going forward here, I don't anticipate a big-time outbreak of, super bad storms, no tornado outbreak by any means. But we'll have to see if this trend's any worse. It's really, we're working with pretty much a lower, kind of a weaker, low shortwave low pressure here developing along this upper trough. But going forward here, you see this cluster of storms, and we're going to go on and switch to the day to that day 4 risk across the south, and you can see the storms beginning to enter the picture as we're getting into the south in general. But this is as far out as it goes. But I do anticipate this area of showers and storms to continue to move east. And I really think there will be a lot of convection in general for the South. I'm talking Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, that I think that might help to tamper, to kind of limit the severe weather threat. But regardless, the Storm Prediction Center even mentions that the atmosphere really out ahead of this. And this is 2 a.m. in the morning, for example, in Eastern Standard Time for the NAM, by the way. So obviously we're not into the noon time frame right here or anything like that. But I'm showing you what's coming. The piece of energy with this low pressure developing that's going to scoot across the southern sections of the Ohio Valley, this weak low pressure, is going to be in response to all this moisture that's going to probably pop up here in areas of the south. Well, not probably, likely to pop up. So going forward here, you look at the GFS, you look at the moist air. I'll stop this at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Notice you have a good bit of stable air in place, dew points in the 40s, maybe even 30s in place. But as I jump 12 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours. Look how quickly it's replaced with this moist air. I'm talking about dew points in the 60s and 70s. So a broad, pretty massive moist sector and warm sector builds right here. So that allows the Cape to really build into this region, and water content, basically water moisture content. So you're basically going to have a lot of moist air for these storms to really fuel off of. So you're going to probably have a flooding risk into this area right here for sure. So going forward here, in general, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, so I can stop rambling here. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So you look at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is for your Tuesday morning, wee hours of the morning, right? You see all the moisture right here, the blobs of green. But as we move 12 hours forward, look at this, deeper colors of green here, and you look at the yellows, the reds. You can tell that there's a lot of moisture. Now, the GFS isn't a short-range model. It's just a global model, so it's not going to show you the convective a look of what these storms, showers and storms can look like. It's just going to show you where there's a lot of moisture. But in general, for around your midday to early afternoon hours, you can see there's a lot of moisture in the area for Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And this continues into the afternoon and evening hours, even into the Carolinas. So we have to watch for a lot of heavy rain. But what does this look like? Of course, we're not in these short range models, so we can't really tell what these storms are going to look like, the severity of them. But what we can look at is the dynamics in place. And what we can tell you is there's going to be an issue, and you can see it right here. This is for about Tuesday midday, Tuesday around early afternoon to midday to early afternoon. You see how there's a weird gap right here in Cape? That is because there's probably going to be moisture right in here. Cape is going to have a hard time building where there's a more stable atmosphere due to the fact that there's moisture that falls in the morning. But look at the Cape building down here in southern areas of Georgia, the panhandle of Florida, areas of Mississippi, and we continue into the evening hours. Cape tries to build into this region as you get into the afternoon, evening hours, but it never quite recovers. The atmosphere doesn't recover. So if you don't have a lot of Cape juice to the atmosphere, you can have a lot of moisture, sure, but you're not going to have any. You're gonna lack that deep severity level element. See these thunderstorms that develops in this region. So you got to watch. Even in the Storm Prediction Center mentions in the discussion, how much does the atmosphere recover in these areas? That's a big question, really going forward here. But if it does, a low-level jet gets kicked in right here, and I'm about to show you that. If any kind of Cape builds into this region, with this basically the shortwave low pressure develops over and basically probably a 40-50 knot low level jet builds into this region right here, and some Cape builds, then you're going to have an issue with probably some nastier storms. But really going forward here, you can look at this low level jet right here, and I'll stop it. You see how I have a low level jet popping about 40-50 knots? So you had the kinematics in place for severe weather. But do you have the Cape that builds in that same time frame, right? Well, let me fast forward. Low-level jet popping up right in here. Do you have Cape that builds? Not much Cape in that same area where you had the kinematics in place, that wind energy. I mean, you don't even have Cape pushing 500 joules per kilogram, right? Surface-based Cape. So the dynamics are a bit displaced is what I'm trying to say. You know, kinematics, thermodynamics. They're not thermodynamics, meaning the temperatures, the dew points that you need, the Cape that you need. Kinematics, meaning the winds aloft. Do you have the shear, directional shear in place to put a spin to these updrafts to cause tornadic activity? So moving forward here, we'll look at that Wednesday threat. This is Wednesday. And what happens here is that low pressure develops over the upper Midwest, the Midwest, and you basically have an air mass that is moving. And what happens is you have dew points to rise very quickly in the southeast to the 60s and 70s. So I expect really for your Wednesday across the southeast, I'm talking about Georgia and the Carolinas, even areas of Alabama, it is going to be pretty humid for early April standards. So I'm talking about dew points in the 60s, potentially 70s, so forth. With a moving air mass, these dew points right in here into the 40s, 30s, even 20s way back here. This is a clashing air mass that will end up changing the game late in the week and probably providing a little bit of cool air. But this will stall out. It will slow down. So therefore, you get into Thursday afternoon, you still have those dew points in place right here in the 60s and 70s. This is the reason why you have this area right into here. You know, I'll back it up right here. See this area, this 15% risk right into here. Let's see if I can find the right panel. This is for your Thursday, right? This is Thursday also. Look at the dew points in the 60s and 70s. More so in the 60s, right here in eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia. So you still have the dynamics in place for severe weather. And it's because you watch. And if I back this up, how fast is this, going, right? It's actually trending a little quicker. But in the last few runs, it's trending a little bit slower. So basically, Thursday is driven off how quick this air mass change moves in. Dew points in the 40s, 50s, and 30s, for example, that is considered more of a stable atmosphere, right? That's dry air. Severe weather don't want nothing to do with dry air. So moving forward here, and I'm going on 20 minutes in the video, and maybe in the video I told you I wouldn't hold you up for 20 minutes, but looks like I'm going to pass 20 minutes. I've done a lot of rambling in this video, but some videos are like that. But for your Wednesday threat, you see the low pressure way over here. So is there going to be any kind of lack of forcing with this? Not sure yet. So we watch the placement of this low pressure for your Wednesday threat. You really do. But there's going to be moisture ahead. There's going to be high-end dew points right into here. But, what does the wind energy look like? You're probably going to have some kind of, kinematics in place, but it's hard to tell if you're going to have a lot, and I really don't think you are. That's why I think the threat for severe weather is more so right here, a little bit closer to that low pressure with the winds aloft are a little bit higher in response to the southeast orientation location of this low pressure. So there is a chance for significant rainfall. This is day 3. This is Monday and a Tuesday. It does not go to day 4. Well, it does actually, but I only have day 3 up. But I do think there's going to be a flooding risk, a slight risk. That means there's at least a 15% chance of flash flooding guidance occurring in this location, whatever guidance is for that location. And that's all dependent on how much rain you've had lately in that location. I do think there's going to be a risk. There is a risk in these areas too. So flash flooding is going to be a threat throughout the entire week for the South. So a lot of areas of the South need a rain, but this is rainfall between now and between now and the next 7 days. So between now and next Saturday evening, and it tells you the idea that a lot of people are going to see a lot of rain. The GFS specifically likes this region of Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina to see several inches of rain, 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of rain. So that's all I got, guys. That's a mouthful. That's why I like to get. The big reason I don't like talking severe weather is because I feel like I repeat myself a lot. And winter weather is different because winter weather, things change so much. Severe weather, you really don't know the nitty gritty of what's going to happen until you get into what we call CAMs, short range models like the HRRR model, the NAM. So until you get into the range of those models, you don't really know how exactly it's going to unfold. Hurricanes are the same. You know, when you're tracking a hurricane, you can get there's new data. There's always new information the next day, right? Because it either strengthens or weakens or stays the same, but you can still talk about the things a little bit more detailed. So that's why talking severe weather is always great because you're learning, but it's probably out of the big 3, winter weather, hurricane season, and severe weather season. Severe weather is definitely probably my least favorite. So, but anyways, I'm done rambling, guys. Y'all have a great evening, and I'll talk to y'all guys in the morning.